If there is one thing esports isn't well known for, it is longevity. Despite that, most players will follow a similar career path. Whether their career lasts for a few months or spans multiple years, they will always do well throughout. However, for a select few individuals, this is not the case. For some, their pro careers are cut off short, not by quitting, but by a sharp decline in skill. Whether it be falling behind in skill or just mysteriously getting worse at the game, some pros out there just fall off. And this has only been exacerbated in a game like Fortnite, where the skill ceiling is always increasing and new faces pop up left and right. Throughout its history, Fortnite has had many faces absolutely take over the scene only for them to rapidly fall off and struggle to keep up for the rest of their career. Players like these are different from those that quit, as many of them still actively play to this day, yet cannot ever place in a single tournament. So who are these players? Well, this video will seek to shed some light on those whose professional careers fell off. First up on this list is the most recent of all players here, being Marius Cow. Marius is a player from Denmark who would begin a meteoric rise to stardom in early 2024. Before that, Marius was just an average pro who would place here and there in Cash Cups and Victory Cups. He even made an FNCS Grand Finals back in Chapter 4 Season 1, where he would place 12th with Fredoxy. But around the early months of 2024, he would begin to make a name for himself as he quickly became one of the best creative players in EU. Marius would make quick work of many top EU pros, such as Thomas HD and Noah Riley in creative 1v1s, and this is when he began catching the attention of many in the community. Content creators such as Maridem would put Marius at the top of their list for underrated players that will make waves in 2024, and those predictions would all be correct. In the Chapter 5 Season 1 Grand Finals on EU, Marius would place 4th with his duo Sangilde after an explosive Day 2 comeback. This was only the start for Marius, as the spree he went on in the solo victory cups the following season was historic. In Chapter 5 Season 2, it sort of became a trend in solo victory cups to see who could drop the highest kill games. Most famously, Peterbot, Poyo, and Reet would all drop huge kill games ranging from 39 to 43 kills. However, these were all NA players. EU didn't really seem to have anyone to rival this. Of course, many people would turn to coping by saying EU is harder, but this would all be proven wrong when Marius would step up and compete with those on NA. Marius would drop many high 30 kill games, with his best being 39. However, just as quickly as he rose to prominence, he would begin to decline sharply. In the Chapter 5 Season 2 EU FNCS Grand Finals, Marius would get a disappointing 36th place. Now, one bad placement doesn't mean that you are automatically washed, but this trend only seemed to continue for Marius. He failed to qualify for the Season 3 Grand Finals, which means he lost all opportunity to make LAN. Since these events, he has quickly fallen out of the spotlight of the wider Fortnite community despite how viral he was just a few months prior. So what happened? Well, the reasoning might be pretty simple, being that he just isn't that diverse of a player. Marius is a very good fighter, but doesn't seem to possess other abilities other than that, to the caliber of top tier pros of course. Chapter 5 Season 1 was a meta that heavily favored good fighters, as seen with how good Clix performed in that Grand Finals. But the next 2 seasons had a much different meta, being centered around strategic rotations and surge tags. Metas like these simply don't facilitate the skills of good fighters like Marius, hence the bad performances. So unless Marius decides to put in the work to diversify his skill set, his short few months of fame will likely be the only time he was well known. What is now possibly the biggest fall off in history from a placement's perspective is Nyrox. Nyrox is best known for winning the 2019 Fortnite Duo World Cup Finals with Aqua. Leading up to this though, Nyrox was a good player on EU. Nyrox would get his start around late 2018 after placing well in a few mostly EU tournaments. He would continue this good play into 2019 when he placed 6th in the Scallywag Cup, but it was when he started the duo with Aqua is when the magic started to happen. Nyrox would qualify for the Duo World Cup by placing 3rd in the 4th week of qualifiers, and as everyone knows by now, the duo would later go on to win the World Cup. However, after the World Cup, the decline Nyrox would see is possibly one of the biggest fall-offs in Fortnite history. Immediately following his win, Aqua would drop Nyrox. Nyrox would then fail to qualify for Season X Trio Finals. He did fortunately make the next 2 FNCS Grand Finals, but he didn't really place well in either of them. After Chapter 2 Season 2, Nyrox would never make a single FNCS Finals ever again. With how little noise he was making, many thought he had quit, but he kept on playing this whole time. He even still plays the game to this day, yet he is not at all placed. So what happened? Well, for Nyrox, this is likely just a case of having one standout tournament, which set the standards way too high for him as a player. Even Nyrox would admit on multiple occasions that Aqua was a much better player than him, and the World Cup win was mostly due to Aqua. Not necessarily carried by Aqua, but it was clear that Aqua was a heavy lifter of the duo. So once Aqua dropped Nyrox, it probably demotivated him, as Aqua was likely the best teammate he would ever have. This would ultimately culminate in Nyrox falling behind the ever-rising skill ceiling until he just couldn't keep up with current pros anymore. But that isn't an issue anyway, as he seems really happy either way, and he is also a millionaire, so he is doing great for himself. Now for one of the saddest fall-offs in Fortnite history. Not sad in the way that it's heartbreaking, but more sad because of what could have been, and that is the fall of Ziandi. Ziandi is a Romanian Fortnite player who had a very dominant reign in 2022. Ziandi would begin his journey as a Tier 1 pro around mid-2020 when he would manage to qualify for the Chapter 2 Season 3 solo FNCS. Although he didn't place well, the potential was there and he only got better with time. Ziandi would begin to come onto people's radars in late 2021 when he would pull off one of the craziest clutches in Fortnite history, managing to win a reboot round as a solo for his team. And in 2022, Ziandi would find his form as a player. Ziandi would pick up Joe FN the duo and they would make waves, placing 8th and 4th in the first two FNCS tournaments they played together. And then came the two biggest tournaments of his career, Gamers 8 2022 and the Invitational 2022. Ziandi would finish second in the Gamers 8 build tournament with Chapix, as well as place 8th in the 2022 Invitational LAN. It was at this point he was in his prime and truly cemented as one of the best players on EU. But just as quickly as he rose up, he would fall off. After the 2022 Invitational, Ziandi did not make a single FNCS Grand Finals. He did still place well in no-build tournaments though, and to this day, Ziandi still plays the game, yet most people have forgotten him and he hasn't really had any big tournament placements. So what happened? Well, it is likely that Ziandi just started to fall behind the meta by focusing on no-builds rather than builds. Ziandi was also known to be not much of a grinder, so that definitely didn't help his decline either. It seems these days he's doing well though, and the fall off hasn't really affected his passion for gaming. Next up is one of Fortnite's controller goats, Letchi. Letchi is a German player who got his start in competitive Fortnite early on in 2018, but it wasn't until 2019 when he would really find his footing. He would place 14th and 17th in the Blackheart and Lux Cup respectively. He would then proceed to qualify for the Solo World Cup Finals by placing first in the Week 5 solos. This would make Letchi one of only 8 controller players qualified for the tournament in the whole world. He would place above average in the finals, getting 32nd, but he only continued to play from there. He would get a couple notable Grand Finals performances, such as placing 8th in the Season 4 FNCS with Savage and Benji. However, this would fall apart starting in 2021. From this point onward, he would miss many Grand Finals tournaments, with the last one he ever made being Chapter 3 Season 1 at the end of the year. Despite this, he kept playing every single day but just never seemed to be able to do well in tournaments. So what happened? Well, this one is likely the hardest one to answer as nothing very obvious happened. It seemed that over time Letchi just fell behind the skill gap despite playing every single day. Perhaps it might have been demotivation from missing so many Grand Finals or not being able to find teammates. All of that aside though, he seems to be doing good these days as he still enjoys the game. Finally is a story the Fortnite community is all too familiar with, being the fall of Asian Jeff. Asian Jeff would get his start in Fortnite all the way back in 2019, but not for the reasons he's known for today. While Asian Jeff is usually well liked by the community nowadays, back then, he was nearly unanimously hated. Jeff was known as that one really toxic kid who would always wager clicks, and while he was extremely obnoxious, nobody could deny he was good at the game. However, it would remain this way for a while as Jeff seemed to focus mostly on creative and 1v1s as opposed to competitive. This changed in 2021 when he would qualify for the Solo All-Stars by placing first in the play-in, showing that he had actually had what it took to make a Grand Finals. Jeff would continue to qualify for other FNCS Grand Finals tournaments, even placing 11th in one of them. However, as his socials began to blow up in late 2023, Jeff would start grinding less and fall behind. He played his last ever FNCS Grand Finals in Chapter 5 Season 1, only placing 32nd. It likely only hurt more seeing his former duo Oliver OG drop him and then proceed to place 12th in the next FNCS Grand Finals. Despite Jeff's drop off in content, it seems his pro career has not really bounced back as he struggles to find teammates to play with. This would lead Jeff to play with Cypher PK, a very good decision for content, yes, but further proving that Jeff lost what he once had with competitive Fortnite. He simply fell behind the ever-evolving skill ceiling, a trend that seems all too common with everyone on this list. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see similar content, then like, subscribe, follow my socials, and check out the video on your screen now.